Hello YouTube! Today I'm going to be making a deck profile on my premium deck for Maelstrom. So this deck I have been testing it for a few weeks, and I updated it with the new standard support uh, with extra booster 8. So of course this is a Excel clan, and this is a premium deck, so this is going to be playing all the old stuff along with it. So the my primary goal with this deck is to stride Progenitor Dragon as soon as possible to conserve hand. That's mainly my primary goal with this deck, is to conserve hand. And so I'm gonna get started with the deck profile before I continue explaining things. And of course, Excel clan, so of course you need your Excel markers. And so let's get started. First I play 4 Lordly Maelstrom. This is your main primary ride target due to the fact that its stride skill allows you to put a card with Maelstrom in its name to soul when a card with Maelstrom strides on top of it, and that's the main reason why you want to ride this as your primary ride target. And the second skill does help, which if you did commit 4 attacks during the turn, or 4 attacks or more, you can retire 1 and draw. But the main focus is the stride skill, where you want to put a Maelstrom card in your soul. Well, you can put any card in your soul, but you primarily want to put Maelstrom cards in your soul because Maelstrom is the main focus, and you want to build up Maelstrom in your soul for your strides. And then for a backup ride target, if I do not get Lordly Maelstrom, I use the new version of Blue Storm Dragon Maelstrom. I use this just as a backup ride mostly, not for any of the skill. Although sometimes as a first ride, and also it does have a 12K body, so at least it does have that. Although I really do not like its second skill, where you need to attack hit just to restand. It's also most of the new cards for V series just do not have much benefits to be in your premium deck, because you're gonna be because this is still much more of a stride deck. So essentially, the skills is pretty much useless other than for the Excel marker. So not really much for it. And also because it has Maelstrom in its name, so I do run it for that too. And next I run, for the last Maelstrom cards, I run 10 grade 3s. I run Glory Maelstrom. I do sometimes use Glory Maelstrom skill, so its skill is Counterblast 1, and then for the whole entire turn, your opponent cannot intercept, and your opponent can only use 1 card to guard from their hand. Well, for each battle. And if you have a Maelstrom in your soul, plus 10k. So this is usually a second ride target. Although for this deck, you don't really need to exactly do that. You don't exactly need to do that because there is a card that will allow you to put a Maelstrom card in your soul from the drop zone. Although I only run it for sometimes to use its skill, because it is actually a really good finisher to use. Although I normally just do not use it. It's just for more Maelstrom options. But although it is better than the other options, of course. But then this is a sometimes use, not. So those are my grade 3s. That's 10. Next, so for the grade 2s, I run for Eldermoss. This is the card I'm talking about. That puts Maelstroms from your drop zone to Zol. So if you do end up in a situation where you pretty much just ride Glory Maelstrom, and you have another Maelstrom in the drop zone, you could actually just ride Glory Maelstrom as your first ride and just use this, and then just overwhelm your opponent. So that's really good right there. So its skill, so of course skill is when placed, which you're when placed, reveal a Maelstrom card in your soul from your hand. Well, you can reveal a Maelstrom card in your hand if you have if a card that you revealed is Maelstrom, or if you have another, or if your Vanguard is Maelstrom, then it doesn't minus 5k for the turn. So of course you're gonna try to do that because it is 10k pizza against one of those old ones. So it's either as long as you have a Maelstrom card on your hand or on the field on your Vanguard, it will not lose that 5k for the turn when called. But the main important skill is the Counterblast 1 skill, where you can put a Maelstrom card from your drop zone to soul, and then plus 4k to let it attack from the back row for the turn. So that's the main point. I have thought of running 4 of these, like taking out one other grade 2 for 4 of these, but sometimes it's just a card that you just cannot use, because then you just you kind of like a lack drop zone from early game. Usually you don't have much of a drop zone in early game, and usually you're not going to have a Maelstrom in your drop zone that early, because Lordly Maelstrom would already put it there. So that's why I'm running 3, but then you can run 4. I thought of running 4 sometimes, because in some situations I did need the 4th one. So my next grade 2, I run the new Algos. So of course, it has a Vanguard and Rearguard skill. Vanguard skill, when it attacks, second battle or more, Counterblast 1, Soul Blast, just stand 1. And the other important skill, if it's on Rearguard, when it attacks the first battle, you can Counterblast 1 to stand it. And yes, it's not end of battle, you just stand it right away when it attacks. Stand the unit or stand itself on when it's on Rearguard, directly right when it attacks. So it's not end of battle, just remember that. Some of the old cards include the end of battle part, so I just need to say that. So of course you run Algos for its restand, and I originally ran 3 of these, but before that was Eb08. But with Eb08, there's that new card that searches Algos, so I'm just running 4 for full consistency. And 2, Algos is a really good card for the deck, so I do want to maximize the way to search it. Next, grade 2, my last grade 2 lineup is 4 Tidal Assault. This has been a staple for Aqua Force, the original one anyway. So this one, I'm running the original one. At the end of the battle it attacks, you can stand it and minus 5k. Well, attacks a Vanguard, by the way, just remember that. You could run 3 if you want, and then just replace. I thought of running 3 and then just replacing the 4th one for Eldermoss, but at the same time, you do want to get those extra attack numbers, and this card definitely helps you increase those attack numbers, because in at least the old version of the Maelstrom deck, your main focus has always been getting 4 attacks. So this definitely does help, especially with Lordly Maelstrom. When you put a card in, when you use its stride skill to put a card into your soul, you superior call 1, and then after that you've given it additional attack by letting, after the end of the battle, it stands again. So if you do end up in a situation where this card is the only other card in your hand or something, or Algos is in your hand, you could superior call that card, and then after that, that card will have 3 attacks for the turn. So sometimes sometimes this card is more important than the Eldermoss, just to make sure you can get off your skills, your 4 attack skills. So that's my grade 2 lineup. That's 11 grade 2s. And for the grade 1 lineup, I run 4 Storm Rider Nikoloz. So its skill is, when placed, look at top 7 and search for Algos and put it to your hand, and then shuffle your deck, and then plus 3k for the turn. So this card is the Algo Searcher. I originally ran Tita for it being a 12k attacker, so because a 12k attacker is still decent, and a majority and Excel clans and Protect clans, of course, are 12k, so that's why I originally ran it. But then when this came out, it is 11k attacker, but it becomes a 11k attacker instead of 12k. But it does help you search Algos, which is an important piece to help your combo plays. So that's the main reason why I ran 4. And yeah, it's mainly that. It's just it lets you search Algos, and it's plus 3k as well. So I mean, you do lose that 1k, but and every turn part, but then you're going to primarily use grade 1s as boosters anyway, so it's not much of a deal. And then next I run 4 Penguin, or yeah, I run 4 Penguin, so of course its skill is Restless unit, and then the unit in the same column will get 5k until the end of the turn, so you primarily want to use that skill with those restand units like Algos and Tidal, just so you make them 14k, and it can attack twice. Although with Tidal's case, the second attack will just have to go to a 9k rearguard or something. Remember that its other skill is when you commit 4 battle, when a unit attacks and it's a 4th battle of the turn, you can retire to countercharge. So this is what I'm talking about. Why it's sometimes important to have. Why I'm running. I decided with 4 Tidal and instead of like 3 Tidal and 4 Eldermoss, is because you want to get those 4 battles to make sure you activate skills, and the countercharge is very important at times, so you do want to get that off. Next, I run 2 Stride Enablers. No really other reason at all, but Stride Enablers just to make sure you're able to stride. And then for my last grade 1, I run 2 grade 1 PGs, the old one that lets you, after when it boosts, you can add it back to your hand. And just to keep in mind, this one can only block for blue storms, so although since your Vanguards are going to be blue storm anyway, it doesn't really matter. And now for the grade 0s, I run the blue storm starter, which I can't even find really any other good starters for this deck, although this can actually give some pressure and can give some extra consistency to help you add your Maelstroms. Since I am running 10 Maelstroms, well, all my Maelstroms are grade 3s and they're total of 10, I do have a good chance of getting it. So skill is when boost attack hits, you can look at the top 5 to search for a Maelstrom. So that's really what it is. And then so for the trigger lineup, I run 4 when Vanguard GB1, when Vanguard attacks, put the soul draw plus 10k. I have thought of running the original, the blue storm crit, where you when a Maelstrom attacks, when boosting a Maelstrom with 4th battle, your opponent cannot guard it with grade 0s. But my issue with that one is that it's a 5k trigger, so, and 2, you do your Engulf, your Stride is probably already going to block that, so, and I'll explain later. So next I run the original Polix. So skill put the soul to countercharge, but I'm deciding to run this one because soul can be an issue in this deck, especially with soul can be an issue with this deck with when you use things like when you use your PG, because then you will likely need to use that PG for boosting, because Aquaforce can lack hand and does actually have problem with weak attacks, so you might need to call that. And this could actually increase soul as well. And counterblast, it does get a little does get a little heavy. So yeah, this is just for countercharging and for soul purposes, so it does serve 2 purposes. That's why I'm running this crit instead. So the next I'm running the 2 draw PGs just to fill up my PG quota, and then of course the 10k draw PG, and then I mean not draw PG. What am I talking about? The other 10k draw trigger, and then of course the 4 heals. I was thinking about running the blue wave heal for G guarding, but then this is still 20k shield, and it's still much better in cases. And I think I have enough counter charging. So now to the G zone. I run 4 Bluestorm, Breaking Dragon, Engulf, Maelstrom, and this is what I'm talking about. Why you might not even need the guard restrict grade 0 critical trigger, is because this card already kind of does that for you. So its skill is when it attacks, and if it's the 4th attack during the turn, for every Maelstrom card in your soul, your opponent cannot guard with grades less than the amount from their hand, and G guard with that either. So if you have 1 Maelstrom card in your soul, your opponent cannot guard with grade 0s, and if you go 1, and if you have 2, then your opponent cannot guard with 1 or 2, and that having 1 is pretty much kind of guaranteed, because you do have Lordly Maelstrom already do that, and you do have Eldermoss to kind of already fill that quota if you do if you do not end up riding Lordly Maelstrom. And 2, this card has actually has gone a little better because draw PGs, and they're grade 0s. And its second skill is you can flip a card from your G zone, and if you end up with having 2 or more cards in your G zone, plus 5k in crit. I do use this pretty much all the time, just to make it harder for my opponent to guard, of course, because the more this card makes this deck as like a ticking time bomb, where you build up Maelstrom, then the more Maelstrom cards you have, the harder it is going to be for your opponent to guard. So of course, I want to make sure. So I use the second skill for the plus 5k in crit, just to make it make your opponent have to add more cards to guard with. Next, I run for my first stride. Usually first stride. First stride, if I do not stride Progenitor Dragon, is Disaster Maelstrom. So its skill is when it attacks, you can flip a copy of itself to search your deck for a Maelstrom, and if your heart is a Maelstrom, you can shoot 3 units in your front row, gets 5k. So this is just the first stride. So you stride this on top of Lordly Maelstrom, and then Lordly Maelstrom activates. Since you stride a card with Maelstrom in its name, you put a card from your drop zone to soul. Most likely you're going to choose a Maelstrom, so you're going to pretty much fill the quota already. But if you do misride, you could just stride on top of it, and sure, you don't get the 5k, but then you do have Eldermoss to put the Maelstrom card in your soul, so you probably will still get the 5k. And then this card also helps you set up for your Progenitor Dragon turn, so that's also a reason why. But then you're not going to strike this more than once, usually. And then next on my strides, I run Lambros, because Lambros doesn't cost counterblast either, just like Engulf Maelstrom. But then sometimes I do stride Lambros because counterblast can be an issue, and if I do end up playing the game where I don't not have Maelstroms in my soul, this is my alternate winning condition, because I have end up in situations where I just ride the V versions of Maelstroms, and I just don't have Maelstrom cards in my soul, so I do use this as an alternate condition option to stride. Just the same thing for Alexandros. This is just an alternate condition for alternate win condition. Although this one does cost counterblast, but then can be used as for second and third attack. Lambros requires 4th attack, but doesn't need counterblast. So I do use Lambros if I do need to say a counterblast, but if I don't really need to, like I have plenty, I use this one instead. And I also use these to I also use this to flip the Disaster Maelstrom if I do not have the Maelstroms in my soul, just to build up that Maelstrom so I could, just in case when I need to stride Engulf Maelstrom, I could just use that from there. I could just use Engulf Maelstrom and then flip a Disaster Maelstrom to get the 5k and crit. And then, so my next stride is Valeos Revive, just for some extra draw, and sometimes you will use that, so it's another option. But then you probably won't use it that often. And then of course I use the Progenitor Dragon. Like I said, my main goal is to stride the Progenitor Dragon as soon as possible, so then I could conserve hand. And it's mainly to conserve hand, and so I could actually call those Maelstroms to the rear guard, so I have more attacking units. That's just the main reason why my main goal is to strike Progenitor Dragon first, especially with like 10 Maelstroms in this deck. You probably will be drawing a bunch of them, so you're probably going to be like using those for PG, so you're probably going to end up with quite a bit in your drop zone. Although this Progenitor Dragon skill is shit, I'm just going to say that, but you sometimes will use it. So for my G guards, I run one, I still can't pronounce it, Sky and Water, Guard Leader of Sky and Water. So its skill gets 5 flip. It's the flip G. It's the flip G guard face up skill where you, when placed, plus 5k for every rear guard. Which this G guard is good, but when you play against decks like Kagero or Narukami or Link Joker, yeah, you're not gonna like it. You're probably gonna just use this as flip fodder for Engulf Maelstrom or something. Next, I run Ice Barrier Dragon. First attack or 4 for more attack, plus 10k. And then my last G guard, Galfleia. I mean, it's second and third attack plus 5k. It's just the same as the new heal triggers, 20k shield. But the main reason why I use this is mainly because of the turn back face down skill. This is good flip fodder for pretty much your Engulf Maelstrom. So if you do stride like Engulf Maelstrom and you already have like 2 Maelstrom cards face up in your G zone, you could just use this as flip fodder and then just use its skill to flip it back face down, and then just do like a counter charge, or you're playing against Link Joker, unlock one of your rear guards. Also, this is another reason why I'm running the original Polix, is because this card costs a Soul Blast. As well, so you will need like that extra soul, especially for this card. So that's the main reason why. So that's my deck profile. I hope you enjoyed it. I'm gonna try to put the deck list in the description, and see you guys next time.